I have my mint tea. It's actually this thing that is for my throat. What do they call this thing, Jesse? A medicine ball. I just discovered these at Starbucks. This is not a sponsored thing. I'm just sharing the love. It is so good if you have a raspy throat like I do. And I just wanted to jump on. There's a lot going on in the world right now. And I wanted to talk about how you can let go of things that you can't control and why right now it is more important than ever that you learn how to stop obsessing, worrying about, or trying to manage or complain about things that you cannot control, and that you learn how to redirect your energy back to yourself. And I'm going to talk about why this is important. I'm going to talk about how to do it. And we're going to unpack some of the research around why this matters so much. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about how you can learn to let go of the things that you just can't control is obviously because right now there's a lot of uncertainty. Everybody that I know is on edge. This always happens in a moment of great change. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. The headlines right now are very negative. They're very extreme. This has nothing to do with who you may have voted for or whether or not you're even in the United States or you're in a different country where there's not an election right now. It's like you can feel it, this collective angst. Everybody is feeling uncertain and on edge. And it's very important in a time like this that you understand what's in your control and you understand what's not in your control. And I'm going to explain the 3 reasons why it's important for you to learn how to let go of what you can't control and to focus on what you can, which is yourself. We're going to talk about the psychological impact to you when you keep bracing and you keep focusing on things that you can't control. And right now there's a lot going on and there's a lot that is out of your control. And so if you're feeling uncertain or you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling on edge, I want to validate that. You're not alone. I definitely feel it too. And I'm going to talk about some of these things, and then I'm going to give you some tools. And that's the most important thing, because no matter what's happening around you, no matter where you live, no matter what your political opinions are, no matter where you are in terms of your money or your health, there are always going to be things that you can't control. And there are going to be a heck of a lot of things that you can. And so I'm going to help you today to really understand what's in your power and what's not. And I'm going to help you understand and feel empowered about why more than ever, focusing on what's in your control is what you need to do. Doubling down on your values, doubling down on taking care of yourself, doubling down on understanding what your needs, your goals, your dreams are, what matters to you, and focusing on the things that make you feel whole and that make you feel like you're operating from a place of what's in your control and what you value. That is how you move through a moment like this, because I don't want you to ever forget who you are. In fact, it's moments like this that will remind you of what you're made of and who you are. And that's what I want to start with. And so I want to show you a quick graphic here, guys. So right now, this is everything that is currently out of your control. Politics are out of your control. Your future in terms of what's going to happen, out of your control. The cost of living right now, out of your control. You know, I have our podcast studios in the Boston area. Do you know, this is a research fact, that the price of housing in and around the Boston area has increased over 70% in 3 years. There are lots of team members that work for me that have been saving, that would love to be able to buy a house. They can't afford it. They can't afford it. It's out of their control, right? People in your life who are struggling. If you got somebody that's struggling with their health, or somebody that's struggling with their mental health, or somebody that's really scared right now, that is out of your control. The money that you're making, how much money that you have, how far your money is going to go, the state of money, depending upon what happens in the future, it's largely out of your control. Whether or not you're living in an area of the world where there's conflict or war or hatred, all these things are out of your control. And I bet you can add a bunch of things. Like if you want in the comments, Is there something that you're worried about that sort of you're realizing, wait, this is out of my control? And what I'm going to teach you, there's never been a more important time for what I've created that I call the let them theory. It's a modern application of Stoicism, of detachment theory. It is going to help you to distinguish between what you can't control and what you can control, because this is what you can't control. This little dot right here, that's you. That's me. And this is where we got to focus right now. And I'm going to talk more about this. This doesn't mean putting your blinders on. It doesn't mean invalidating how you feel. It doesn't mean that you're just throwing your hands in the air and saying, there's nothing I can do, because the fact is there's always something you can do through what you think, what you say, and the actions that you take. But I don't want you to continue to give any more power or so much power to things that are beyond your control right now. Okay? We're going to focus on this. And the first tool that you're going to learn is that when you start to get stressed out, when you start to get freaked out, when you start to get worried and stressed and anxious and depressed, and you start to feel overwhelmed because of the things that you can't control that are outside of you, you got to say, let them. You got to say, let them. You got to detach. You got to recognize that what's going to happen in the future, or what's going to happen with tariffs, or what's going to happen at your job, or what's going to happen with the housing, that is entirely out of your control in this moment. And worrying about it, obsessing about it, making yourself sick over it, you know what that does? Any psychologist will tell you, when you focus on things that are outside of your control and you worry about it and complain about it, it just makes you more stressed. It makes you more anxious, and it makes you feel more out of control. And that's not what you want. You got to focus here. You got to focus on the second tool I'm going to teach you today, which is saying, let me double down on my values. Let me double down on my belief that I can figure this out. Let me focus on what I care about. Let me focus on the issues I want to really make a difference on. Let me really understand that I'm responsible for myself, and there are things that I can do. And when you say let them, you detach. When you say let me, you recognize what's in your control. When you say let them, you give up trying to control something that is beyond your control. When you say let me, you take control. You take control of your thoughts, of your time, of your energy, and that's how you get your power back. Because the fact is, none of us really know what's going to happen in the next year, 5 years, 10 years. But I do know this. The more that you or I sit here and I obsess over like a situation, I think that is profoundly unfair. I think it's profoundly, insanely unfair that the cost of housing has risen over 70% in 3 years in the greater Boston area. That's insane. And I think the number is actually a little higher. And so I think that's unfair, but can I do something about it? No. Does worrying about it help? No. Worrying about it, obsessing about it, complaining about it, it makes it worse, because it makes it worse inside of you. Any psychologist will tell you, anytime you try to control something that you can't control, what does it do, everybody? It just makes you feel more out of control. It makes you feel more anxious. And so that's why you got to go let them. Let them. I got to accept things as they are, because resisting things as they are is creating more suffering. Okay? It's creating more suffering. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because I don't want you torturing yourself. I don't want you torturing yourself over things going on in your family, or a health diagnosis, or things going on in the world. Why? You got to take your power back. You got to understand that in any situation, no matter how dark things may seem, when things seem dark, you got one job. You got to be the kind of human being that glows in the dark. You got to be the light. You got to be the person that stays focused on what matters to you. You got to triple down on your values. You got to get like connected to your family and to your friends. And if you don't feel connected to your family and friends, then you get to decide, do I want to work on that, or do I want to put in the work to find family and friends that make me feel more connected? And the more you focus on what's within your control, the more in control you're going to feel. I mean, right now, you got to focus, laser focus on your values, on your goals, on what you're thinking about, on the news and the media that you consume, because if you allow garbage into your mind, you're going to feel like garbage. If you continue to input and get sucked into all the garbage that is out there, then you're going to feel terrible. If you get a health diagnosis and you spend hours and hours and hours reading WebMD and all the worst case scenario, is that going to empower you to make decisions? No. What we know based on the research, and if you're interested in going deeper in this topic, we released a podcast episode like 2 weeks ago. It's called How to Let Go of What You Can't Control and Redirect Your Energy. And we go into what's happening in your mind and your nervous system when you obsessively focus on what you can't control, and then you start to go into fight or flight, and then your amygdala turns on, and now you can't think straight. And now, have you noticed, how many of you have noticed that you're doom scrolling more? How many of you notice that you come home and you just mindlessly watch TV? How many of you have noticed that you get up, you wake up in the morning and the first thing you feel is dread? How many of you have noticed that your negative self-talk has gotten worse and worse and worse? Well, that's because, and I can explain the science, Dr. Aditi Nerurkar, who is a physician from Harvard Medical School. She ran the largest stress management clinic in like the Harvard system at Beth Israel Deaconess. She writes extensively about the fact that when you focus on things that are beyond your control, it puts you in a state of chronic stress. That hijacks your ability to think. It puts your nervous system on edge. And there's a better way to live. In moments where you feel like things are spiraling out of control, you got to say, let them. Let them. You have to detach from the thing that you can't control right now. And then you got to say the second part, which is let me. Let me focus on my values. Let me focus on my goals. Let me focus on my health. Let me focus on what I believe. Let me stop trying to manage what everybody else is saying and doing and thinking, and let me decide how I'm going to operate right now. And for you, that might mean that what you really value is family. And maybe you and your family see things differently. And so you get to decide, let me. Am I going to lean in and really try to connect with my family, even though we see things differently? Or am I going to let me take some time and take care of myself and take some space? You get to decide. It's your life. You get to decide. And as I've often told you, you guys, no one's coming. And you have the power to truly make your life better. No one's coming. And yet you don't really need to be rescued, because you can rescue yourself when you remind yourself the power is not in them. The power is in you. You're the person that you need. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed or upset or things feel out of control in your life, and again, it could be any issue, you guys, like think about it. Right here, these are all the things that are out of your control. Out of your control. The election's over. Yep, done. The future, who knows what's going to happen? Like, we can manifest, and I believe in manifesting, and I'm always aligning my thoughts and actions with what I believe, and I do believe it works. You don't know what's going to happen in the job market. You don't know what's going to happen with the conflict around you. You don't have any control over the cost of living. You don't have any control over whether or not the people that are around you that are struggling are going to do the work to heal. What can you control? Well, you can control over here. This is where all your power is, right here. Let me, right here. The power is in you, because what you think about determines how you feel. Where you spend your time determines what your life feels like. You have way more control. And that's why I wanted to show up now and go, whatever you're feeling is valid. You get to choose how the feelings and the outside world impact you. And that's the power. And I got to tell you, I am so excited. There's no greater time than right now than to honor yourself and what matters to you, than when you feel like you're in a moment where things are falling apart. And what are those moments? Somebody breaks up with you, your world shatters. Somebody dies, your world shatters. You lose a job, your world shatters. Things in politics and in your country feel like they're just kind of spiraling, or even if you are somebody who voted for the incoming administration, You still may feel like, well, I don't really know what's going to happen. And it still bums me out that there's so much conflict between people right now. All these things are not within your control. This is what's within your control. How you show up. Are you a kind person? Are you a considerate person? Are you focused on how you show up? Are you protecting your energy? Are you seeking to understand? Are you chipping away at the things that matter to you? Like, that's why I really want you to stop looking at this. And I want you to look at the one thing that matters, and it's you. You have so much power. That's why I show up here every single day. You know, I just got a question from Abby. Why am I so paralyzed by my fear of the unknown? This is a great question. How many of you feel like this? Why am I so paralyzed by the fear of the unknown, right? All of this is the unknown. And whatever you're dealing with, I just wrote down a few things, guys. Whatever you are dealing with, stick it in this box. Like, maybe you've just lost one of your parents, and now the fear of the unknown is just paralyzing you. Maybe you are uncertain about the way that your company's getting restructured. The reason why you feel paralyzed, and look, I write about this extensively in the Let Them Theory. There has never been a better time for the Let Them Theory, because this book is ultimately about focusing on what you can control. And you're going to meet some of the world's leading neuroscientists. And I'm thrilled to tell you that you guys have been asking for this book to come out sooner. Well, I've pulled off a miracle with my publisher. This is now coming out sooner. It's going to be here in time for the holidays. You can give it to everybody in your family as a holiday present. You can buy it anywhere books are sold. Yes, there's an audiobook, but most importantly, the book is about what Abby's talking about. Abby says, why am I so paralyzed by my fear of the unknown? I want to stop my thoughts from snowballing into something out of my control. Excellent question. So, how does this pertain? So first of all, you and I have a fundamental hardwired need to feel in control of our lives. It is a survival instinct that is wired into your brain since the beginning of time. That's why we're concerned about safety. That's why we're concerned about our environment. That's why we're concerned about what's going on around us and what other people do. It actually triggers your hardwired need to be in control so that you stay alive. So that need for control, it's not going anywhere. And it is hardwired in you. Now, part of the problem for you and me is that in seeking to feel safe and in seeking to feel in control of our lives and our work and our money and our communities and our kids and our parents and our significant other, we try to control the wrong things. So in our need to feel safe, we maniacally focus on trying to control things that we'll never be able to control. And what you're going to learn in the Let Them Theory, the number one thing you can never control is what another human being thinks, says, or does. You cannot control another person. You can't control what they think. You can't control what they say. You cannot control what they do. And whenever you try to focus on another human being and manipulating or worrying about or managing what they think, say, or do, and I'm talking about adults here, okay? Anytime you do that, you try to control someone else, and a lot of you are trying to control things by worrying about it. Worrying does nothing but torture you. Worrying is useless. Useless. The research is very clear on this. Over 80% of the things that you worry about never happen. And of the 20% roughly of the things that actually kind of happen, the vast majority of them aren't anywhere near as horrible as you think they are. You actually survive them. You do fine. It's not that bad. You just tortured yourself. And so your hardwired need to feel safe and in control, that's what's causing you to worry. That's what's causing you to obsess over what the government's doing or what your boss is doing or what your friends are doing or what your parents are going to say. And so here's what I'm going to tell you. The only way you gain control in this situation when you're obsessed about things outside of your control is to give control up. You got to let them. And the thing that I love about saying let them is that unlike saying let it go, which whenever I say you just got to let it go,